Peace. Welcome to Brother Mike X Speaks. Tonight we're going to be talking about blackness, the need for a new racial, cultural identity. In actuality, this is like the third clip. We already did two. And in the first two, we talked about how, because of a lot of things that have happened to us, going back from slavery, coming up through the Jim Crow and segregation eras, on up to today, and the many fights that, the Civil Rights Movement, the Black Power era, and even still today, we're still dealing with a legacy that stretches all the way back to the institution called slavery. Many of our people have adopted identities, that fuel negative, low behavior patterns. We talked about in those other two clips how a lot of our people identify with the word nigger, particularly our young people. Nigger is, some call it a term of endearment, what have you, but nigger is one of the lowest words and mentalities that you can ever adopt. And I don't want to go back into and rehash everything I said in the first and the second segment that we did, called Blackness, the need for a new racial cultural identity, but just connecting this segment with that one is the reason why I'm talking about that. The other one is, minority, the adults, some of the people who feel that they're more responsible, they identify with the label minority. And whether it's nigger, which is highly divisive, a lot of the behavior patterns from those who identify with the word nigger, particularly our youth, is anti-education, anti-discipline, anti-morals, and increasingly anti-life. And this is where a lot of the murders and the killings that's going on in our community is coming from. It's coming from that lowly mentality, nigger, and then going on up to, supposedly going on up to the identity of being minorities. Words have power again, and the root word of minority is minor. And if you identify with being a minority, that means that someone else is the majority. And, if you're a minority, then you go about your life, or we go about our business in a minor way, looking to others, being dependent on others to do things that we should be doing ourselves. So we advocate that we shouldn't be niggas anymore. We shouldn't be minorities anymore. We should be black people. We should be black Americans. We should be African Americans, what have you. And we should work to have that mean the same thing to us that it means when the to a Jewish American, or an Italian American, or a Chinese American, or a Korean American. When they call themselves that, it means something. It doesn't just mean that they share the same color of skin or they share the same neighborhood. It's a bond, it's a pact that they share. It's a one for all for one type of mentality that comes out of that. And I'm advocating that we adopt the same things, In those segments, I talked about, because we don't have an identity that we share that highlights behaviors amongst us that help to bring us together for the positive, our communities are deteriorating. The politicians don't respect us. Like I said in the last segment, I grew up in the Northeast Bronx, and we've had 3 black politicians in this area for the last 20 years, but those politicians do not represent us. Even though they are black people, they don't represent blackness in any way. A lot of those politicians, they serve at the behest of, people, the senior citizens, or whatever block association is highly organized, and they pool their votes together. They'll represent them and be at their beck and call. But large places particularly like the place that I grew up in, Edenwald houses, you know, New York City Housing Authority, 5,000 plus people. They don't come to those places because we don't represent ourselves as a collective. You know, we haven't found a way to come together. So anyway, wrapping up these segments, you know, this is the third one. I want to talk about more so what should we be doing, you know. These are the things, you know, I talked about the levels that we've sunk into. I've talked about the fact that because we're not together, the politicians don't represent us. I've talked about the fact that 99.9% of the businesses in our community, in our neighborhoods, are owned by outsiders. And you can check this for yourself. I live in the Bronx. Go to Brooklyn. Go to the black neighborhoods in Brooklyn. Same situation. 99.9% of the business is owned by outsiders. Go to Queens, you know. Go to Harlem. Go to, you know, anywhere you go a lot of times with lower income to middle income, grassroots black people, you find where there's a lot of division. It's hard for us to come together. A lot of times the only time we come together is if one of us are killed or something negative happens, and then we come together. But we don't show a whole lot of togetherness on the positive side of things, and this is why we can't build. You know, we don't have our own schools. You know, whatever the situation, is always somebody else in control. It's always somebody else getting the benefit out of it, and us being relegated to a lowly station where we're waiting for somebody else to come and do something for ourselves. So how do we get out of that? The first thing we got to do is we have to adopt a more positive outlook, you know, as far as who we are and who we've been and who we need to be. And a lot of that comes from education. You know, it comes from education. And that's one of the worst things, you know, when it comes to us. There's an old saying, if you want to hide something from a black person, just put it in a book. And I'm sad to say, I work with young people. I've been working with young people for 20 years. And black people, black children, you know, don't have a healthy respect for education still. And there are a lot of reasons for that. You know, one of the main reasons for that is that the curriculums in the public education, from the public schools to the middle schools to the high schools, going on into the college institutions, they don't present our side of the story. You know, a lot of times when you go into those curriculums, the curriculums are racist. The curriculums are heavily biased in favor of presenting European values and showing how Europeans from France, from Spain, from England, and so on, coming into the Americas, how they've always been the conquerors, how they've always been the presidents and the ones in control. And, you know, I myself, when I was in school, you know, I had no positive energy within me to acquire, you know, a public school education. Even though I was a great reader and I always loved to study, you know, and even now as an adult, you know, that's my biggest thing is reading and studying, you know. But the schools don't promote that in us. So we're going to have to do it ourselves. You know, we're going to have to find a way to begin to educate ourselves, primarily on who we are, you know, and what has happened to us. And it's not all slavery, because that's one of the things that I know stops a lot of us from learning, a lot of us from reading and studying, because we think that the only thing that we've ever been is slaves. And that comes from their education or their miseducation, what they push in their schools. They teach us that the only thing that we've ever done on this planet is be slaves. And that's far from the truth. You know, the first civilization started in Africa. You know, when you go back into ancient Egypt and all of that, that's black people coming on up, you know, to the present. We've had a lot of great people that have had black skin, that have walked this planet. You know, it's Black History Month right now. And some of us are learning about all of the great inventions and things like that that we've put on this planet. And we've been much more than that. So one of the first things that we got to do is we got to learn about ourselves. We got to read. You know, we got to study. One of the first serious books that I ever read that made me feel proud about myself was the autobiography of Malcolm X. And y'all have heard me talk about this many times. I'm known, you know, where I grew up, you know, as Mike X, you know, and that's kind of like a shout out to the person who woke me up, you know, to a more serious life as a black, you know, man, you know, in today's society. You know, Malcolm X, the autobiography. I would start there. You know, Malcolm X was one of our strongest leaders. Malcolm X embodies the type of leadership that we need now, still today. You know, the type of leadership that's saying that we need to be in control of our own communities. We need to control the politics. We need to control the businesses. You know, we need to control the schools. Like anything in our community, we need to have some direct say-so in it, you know. And it shouldn't be no problem with me saying that, because if you go to the Jewish community, they run and control the politics. They run and control the businesses. They run and control, have their own schools. Everything in their community is run and controlled by them. Part of the reason why our communities are deteriorating is because we've been tricked into believing that we should have no say-so in the decision making, you know, and the business creation, you know, and running, and the schools and how they're run. We should just take our schools and just drop them at the door and pick them up later on and have no real say-so on what they're being taught. You know, this is why our communities are so chaotic, you know what I mean? So the first thing we got to do is we got to take ownership of our own minds. Stop sitting back looking at reality TV shows. You know, that's not going to teach you anything. That's not going to help you or help us to get into the driver's seat to help chart a new course for our communities. It's not going to help us to deal with the crisis that is getting bigger and bigger with our young people. You know what I mean? Where our young people, like I said, are, you know, they're just going down the wrong course. And a lot of that is because of us. So I said a lot tonight, and I'm going to say much more. I want you to, you know, please check out the videos that we're putting here on YouTube. Give me your comments. Give me your opinions, even if it's negative. Dialogue is what we need most. You know, dialogue, you know, us sharing ideas is what we need most. So keep watching.